Alright, so really quick, let's go over your first page of your review. So on the first page of your review, these are the answers. All you were doing was remembering Sakatoa. So if you don't remember Sakatoa, some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid. Okay? Or alcohol, whatever you want to remember the A as. But remember, Sakatoa is sine from the point of angle of reference, opposite over hypotenuse. Identify your hypotenuse first so that you can't mess it up. And then all you're left is either this is going to be an opposite or an adjacent, or this is going to be an opposite or adjacent. And you just follow the rules. Okay? Next, in each triangle below, set up and solve an equation to find the value of x if possible. Notice that 2, 3, and 4 are all right triangles. Because if they're all right triangles, that means that, for example, here I'm missing a side, so all I need to do is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Plug in what I have and solve for it, so it comes down to me looking for, if I let this be a, this be b, this is always c, it comes down to b equals square root of 85 squared minus 54 squared. Put in the calculator, and when I round, I should get 64.64. Next here, if you have x's converted to 2.91, the reason why you got that is because I'm giving an angle, and I have to figure out what's its relation to these sides. This is its adjacent. This is its opposite. So my adjacent and my opposite mean that I have to use tangent. So the tan of an angle equals its opposite over adjacent. Plug in what I have. So the tan of 20 equals x over 8. I'm missing my numerator, so I have to multiply. Put in the calculator, and I'm going to get x is 2.91. Okay? Next you have 43.7, and I'm sorry, next we get 53.7. The reason is because, again, I have my opposite and I have my adjacent, but I'm missing my angle. Because of that, that lets me know that I'm using tan still, but this time I'm doing tan inverse to find the missing angle. Opposite over adjacent, so 15 over 11. Plug it in the calculator, and I get 53.7. On number 5, we're now moving into scaling triangles, or oblique triangles. Oblique triangles, oblique triangles. Oblique triangles are non-right triangles. Okay? So oblique triangles are non-right triangles. And now we're into the non-right triangles. So that means that we can't just use Sakatoa anymore. We have to either use law of sines or law of cosines. So, law of sines, remember, you use it when you're given angle, angle, side, angle, side, angle, or in a possible ambiguous case, side, side, angle. Law of cosine you use in standard form. With this formula, you're going to use side, angle, side. When you do the inverse, that means you have side, side, side. Okay, so in this problem, I have an angle, a side, and an angle. I have angle, side, angle, so this is law of sines. So I'm going to label my triangle. Let this be A. I'm going to let this be B. And this can be C. But I'm not solving for C, I'm just solving for B. First, my first ratio has to be the ratio that I have everything for. So my first ratio will be sine A over side A, and what I'm looking for is B, so I need sine B over side B. Plug in my information, so I'm going to plug in what I have. I'm going to plug in How am I going to find A? Good point. At this point, in order to find A, I would just do 180 minus 54 minus 64. And when I put that in my calculator, I should get 81. So I know A is 81. So sine of 81 over 25 equals sine of 35 over B. I'm going to cross multiply and then divide. So B equals 25 sine of 35 divided by sine of 81. If you're doing this on your home computer, there's plenty online scientific calculators that you can do this with. So when you figure this out, the x for B will come out to be 1452. All right? So keep this information in mind as we work through the problem. Better yet, I'll just highlight it so I can carry it along with me, because everything will erase. So we're going to go on. All right. So that I can keep this information around. Well, I really can't. It's irrelevant. So on to the next one. So now we can do 6. And 6 is, again, I'm looking at what I have. I have side angle. So that means that this is a possible ambiguous case, right? So this is a possible ambiguous case, but still I know because it's side angle, I'm doing law of sine. So I'm going to choose the one that I have the information for. So let me label. It doesn't matter how I label. I'm going to let this be C. This is A. And this is B. Okay, I'm looking for C. And I have all the information for A. So this is going to be my starting. So it's going to be sine of 80 over 4.5 equals sine of C over 2.3. Notice I'm solving for an angle. Because I'm solving for an angle, I'm going to now need inverse. I'm going to need inverse. So because I need inverse, I'm still going to cross multiply times sine of 80. And I'm going to still divide by what's left. Put that in the calculator and I should get 30.2 degrees. Okay, on to 7. On 7, it's a side angle side. So I have a side, an angle, and a side. So this is law of cosine because it's side, angle, side. I'm going to label this A, B, C. So this is A, this is C, this is B. I'm going to use the formula A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine of angle A. So I plug in what I have. So in order to find A, it's going to equal the square root of B squared, which is 11 squared, plus 14 squared minus 2 times 11 times 14 times the cosine of 72. Let me extend that a little more. All right, I'm going to put in the calculator and I'll get A is x of 14.89. All right, now notice this is side. Because it is side, so what's going to happen is I'm going to be led to do law of cosine. And I'm going to go through the whole process. Well, you would go through the whole process and the calculator would say undefined. Okay, it's going to tell you it's undefined. The reason why it's going to tell you it's undefined is because these three numbers fail the triangle inequality that we went over a couple weeks ago. Okay, the reason why it fails it is that my two shorter sides, when added together, are not greater than my larger side. it has to be greater than, and this is not the case. Okay? So that's why it's undefined, because it's not a real triangle. It may look like a triangle, but those numbers put together would not make a real triangle. All right? So on to this one, a real side-side. So now I can do law of cosine, but I'm going to do the inverse because notice how I have no angles. So I'm going to label this A, B, C. So this is A, this is C, this is B. Okay, so I'm looking for angle A equals, sorry, I forgot my inverse, equals cosine inverse of A squared minus B squared minus C squared divided by -2 BC. So I plug in what I have. So angle A equals cosine inverse of, plug in 6 squared minus 3 squared minus 8 squared divided by -2 times 3 times 8. Put in the calculator, I'll get that angle A is 39.6 degrees. Okay? So be careful if you get undefined, check your triangle rule. If the two smaller lengths added together is not greater than the longer length by itself, that means that this is not even a triangle. Okay? So your calculator is not lying to you when it says undefined. All right? Perfect. So now we're going to go on to the next page. Okay? On the next page, all it's doing is making sure you recall how to find all missing measurements. So if you're trying to find all missing measurements, make sure you know everything. So if I'm looking for side B, this is side B. So if I'm looking for side B, what that means is that this is a right triangle. Okay? It's a right triangle, so that means I just use Pythagorean theorem. So side B is going to equal the square root of my hypotenuse minus my other leg. And I'm going to get 19.76. Okay? Now we're going to try to find angle A. Well, if I'm trying to find angle A, that means I'm talking about this angle. And remember, we want to always use our exact values. So focusing on the exact value, what would I use? Well, this is its opposite, and this is its hypotenuse. Opposite and hypotenuse is sine. So I'm looking for sine of A equals 17 over 26. So therefore, A equals inverse of 17 over 26. Put in the calculator, and I'll get that. Now, we're going to come for angle B. Angle B is a little easier because I already have two of my angle measurements. So if I'm looking for angle B equals 180, or better yet, just 90, but just for you to get in the habit, 180 minus 90 minus 40.8. Put it in the calculator, and I get 49.2. All right, now we're on to an oblique triangle. Okay, we're on to an oblique triangle, and we have side, angle, side. Side, angle, side tells us this is law of cosine. Okay, so we have law of cosine, and I'm looking for my side first. So I'm looking for side C, which means I would use the C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2 times A times B times the cosine of C. And so to find C, I plug what I have in. So I'm going to plug in 25 squared plus 19 squared minus 2 times 25 times 19 times the cosine of 100. Then I take the square root of that, and when I do that, I'm going to get this answer. Okay, so I found side C, and now that I have side C, I'm sorry I sound like this, because I have side C, I can now solve for angle A. I can solve for angle A by either doing law of cosine again, or doing, what do you call it? Law of cosine again, but with the inverse, or I can do law of sine. It's really up to you because you now have your angle measurement. Okay, so me personally, I would just do, doesn't really matter, you're still going to get 46.5, but I think I would do law of cosine. Reason why is because it's just easier. So I would do angle A equals cosine inverse, because anytime you're looking for an angle, you got to make sure you do inverse of 25 squared minus 19 squared minus 33.93 squared divided by -2 times 19 times 33.93. And I would put that in the calculator and I would get that. To solve for B, it's easy. I now have my two angles, so I would just do B equals 180 minus 46.5 minus 100. And I would get my B. Okay? Remember, anytime you look for an angle, you got to make sure you use inverse. Inverse. Whether it's sine inverse, sine inverse, cosine inverse, or tangent inverse, you need to use inverse. Sorry, I'm just randomly pressing buttons now. Alright, so back to what we were doing. Alright, down here, make sure when you draw the pictures, you label what it tells you. So, a triangle ABC has A equals 7 units. So I'm going to draw the triangle. Maybe I should get a pencil. So when I draw the triangle, okay, so A is 7, C is 8, and angle A is 50. So I labeled everything. I do not know what E is. So it says, reason why there says there's two solutions is because notice that this is a side-side angle, which means that it's an ambiguous case. And because it's an ambiguous case, what that means is that there is another answer that could possibly work for the problem. Okay? Alright, so first off, it wants to solve for angle C. And let me... Okay, so if I'm going to solve for angle C, which is right here, let's see. I'm going to set up my trig ratio. So if I set up my trig ratio, it's going to come down to be sine of 50 over 7. Remember, it doesn't matter if you put 7 on top or sine of 50, as long as you're consistent with the problem. Sine of C over 8. I'm going to cross multiply and then divide. But notice it's an angle, so I have to do the inverse. So I'm going to do the inverse, and I'm going to get 8 sine of 50 over 7. Okay? When I put that in the calculator, I'm going to end up with 61.1. And what 61.1 is my first possible answer. Okay? 61.1 is my first possible answer. So now I have angle A and I have angle C. So in order to find angle B, I just have to add it together and subtract from 180, or just subtract them at the same time from 180. Equals angle B. So angle B is 68.9. So this is 68.9 degrees. This is 61.1 degrees. If I add them all up, they all equal 180. Now I can solve for side B. The reason why I can solve for side B is because I have a ratio that I can properly set up. Remember, you always want to stick to your exact values. So I'm still going to use sine of A. So this time I'm going to have sine of 50 over 7 now equals sine of 68.9 over B. I'm looking for a side, so I just have to cross multiply and divide by sine of 50. I'm going to get 8.53. All right, because this is a side-side angle, and that means there's a potential that another possibility exists. To find that other possibility, all you do is take what you got for your original C, which is 61.1, and you subtract that from 180. So you subtract 61.1 from 180. So 180 minus 61.1 gives me my other possible C. So there's my other possible C, 118.9. Okay, if that's my other possible C, then my other possible B would come from 180 minus 118.9 minus 50, which I know is for sure. So my other possible B would have to be 11.1. Now I'm going to have a new trig ratio to set up. So I'm still going to use my exact values with the A's. So sine of 50 and 7 now equals sine of 11.1 over B, cross multiply, and then divide by sine of 50. And my new B would be very short at 1.76. And that is how you would end up with the ambiguous case. Because our test is multiple choice, I try to eliminate the ambiguous case. So if you do this and it comes up, that means that you may have found the other one and you just need to try again and make sure your answer comes up. All right, awesome. All right, so now we are going into area. And area, as long as you can find area of a triangle, it makes it super duper easy. The main thing you need to make sure is that you're given a side, an angle, and a side. The angle needs to be sandwiched in between the side, okay? The angle needs to be sandwiched in between the side in order for the formulas to work. The main formula, I guess, that you should just remember is 1/2 B times C times the sine of A. Just label your triangle so that this is A. And then just label it A, B, C. So this is B and this is C. And then plug in the values into the formula. So I would plug in 1/2 times 12 times 30 times sine of 20. And therefore the area is 166 and 89 centimeters squared. Okay? Now if we want to get a little fancy, which I was going to do to you, but I didn't. I cut y'all a little break. If I wanted to get a little fancy, this is a regular octagon. What a regular octagon means is that it's an octagon made of 8 isosceles triangles. And because it's made up of 8 isosceles triangles, what that means is in order to find this angle, aka my vertex angle, how much you remember from geometry, hopefully a lot, that means you take 360 and you divide it by 8, and you'll end up with 45 degrees. So that means that this angle is 45 degrees, and if one leg is 5, then all of the legs are 5. So now you have your side, angle, side. And you plug it in. But remember, how many triangles do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have 8 triangles. Because you have 8 triangles, that means you have to multiply the area formula times 8. So therefore your area is 7,070 and 7/100 inches squared. All right, last one. So you have this trapezoid. This trapezoid is broken into 2 triangles. But notice with both triangles, you still know its angles and you still know both sides. It's still a side, angle, side situation. Just notice you have 2 of them. So that's why I had to write 2 formulas. So I used it twice, added them together because together they make up a whole shape. And there's my area. Okay? You're taking what you know and you're building on it. These problems I eliminated from your test except area. This one you need to know on your test, totally. But 2 polygon problems, the other 2 types of polygons I eliminated, but this will help you get to thinking and it's good practice. Okay? These are good practice. All right. So moving on to the word problems. You do have word problems on your test, so hopefully you are studying and getting ready for them. Word problem, main thing is make sure if there's no picture, draw the picture. If there is a picture, label. All right, the parallelogram shown in the figure has a diagonal of length 9 centimeters. Using this information, along with the given angle measures to find the perimeter of the parallelogram. So I need to find the side. Well, if I know that this angle and that angle, and because it's a parallelogram, remember my geometry rules, this angle is 30 and this angle is 40. So if these two angles are 70, what's left is this large angle has to be 110. So because of all this information, you have a lot of ways to solve for this. Once you solve for one side, you know the other, because parallelograms means that opposite sides are congruent. So just choose which direction you want to go. In this problem, you would have to use law of sines. And I would suggest taking one triangle and drawing that one triangle out. So I would draw one triangle out. So this is 30, 40. Please ignore the fact that it's not drawn to scale. And this is 9. Label A, B, C. I don't know this A, I don't know this B, but I need to know them in order to find my perimeter. Alright, so clearly this is law of sines. I know everything about C. So I'm going to set up sine of 110 over 9 equals, we can start A. Let's go alphabetical. Sine of 30 over A. So I'm going to end up cross multiplying and dividing. When I cross multiply and divide, I'm going to put in the calculator, find out A. 9 times sine of 30 divided by sine of 110. And when I put, oh crap, sorry, didn't mean to say that. Alright, so when I put it in the calculator, I'm doing it now. Hopefully you're doing it too, to verify that I'm doing it right. And I'm going to get 4.79. 4 79 hundredths of a centimeter. And that's my A. So I know A, which is the shorter one, in between 40 and 110. This is 4 and 79 of a centimeter. And then I'm going to do it again to solve for B. But this time I'm using angle B. So let me switch my colors. So B now is going to be same setup, but where sine of 30 was, is now going to become sine of 40, and this is going to become B, because I've already did 30. So, plug in my new step, and I get 9 sine of 40 divided by sine of 110. Put it in the calculator, I'm going to end up with 6 and 16 hundredths of a centimeter. Now I know that this side is 6 and 16 centimeters. So, therefore, its opposite side has to be 6 and 16 centimeters. Its opposite side has to be 4 and 79 centimeters. And to find the perimeter, I add them all up, and they add up to 21.9 centimeters. 21 and 9. This is 90 hundredths of a centimeter, or 9/10 of a centimeter. Capiche? Caposh. Alright, from naval base in the ocean, a ship travels northeast. Remember, northeast means that I'm breaking 45 degrees. Okay? So if I'm traveling northeast, I'm breaking 45 degrees, which means that my angle is going to be 135. Okay? So a ship travels northeast for 6 kilometers before turning and heading north for 8 kilometers. Okay? Note again, if I'm traveling, this had to have been 45. And I'm traveling, and I break north. So in order to go north, I'm going to have to go the rest of that 45 degrees. Okay? So we did this in class. So all I want to know is how far is it from the base? Well, this is side, angle, side, which is law of cosine. And it just matters how you label it. So if I label this base as B, this is A, this is C, I'm looking for side A. If I'm looking for side A, I'm using A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2 times B times C times the cosine of angle A. So therefore A equals square root of, plug in the numbers, I get 8 squared excuse my phone, c squared minus 2 times a times 6 times the cosine of 135. Put all that in the calculator, and I'm going to end up with it being 12 and 96 hundredths of a kilometer. All right, so that's working through the word problems. Once you draw a picture, a word problem no longer is no longer a word problem. It's just now a picture that you're trying to solve. On to the last page. Okay, on the last page, it's more word problems and you drawing out the word problems. I'm going to leave these for you guys to do. Please read through the problems. Here are some of the pictures, and so that you can find out the answer, just make sure you read through and use what you know to the best of your ability. And yeah, good luck. I will be here in the morning no later than 7:55. So if you need me, come stop by. And yeah. All right. Make sure you remember everything. Make sure you make your note card. On your note card, I strongly suggest write down any formulas that we use during the review. And you will do fine. Main thing is make sure you write down these formulas. All right. Good luck. See you tomorrow.